Wayne is not here. I think he's on vacation, so can we just get a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting? Supervisor Simpson, Supervisor Strau, all those in favor?
Aye.
Edward, I guess you're...
Good morning. I have Wayne's 35-minute presentation that I want to go over first before we get into mine. That's all right. Board members, no. Just to comment on that, on the CFA process concluded last Friday at 4 o'clock, and Wayne and I coordinated between the various applications on behalf of municipalities within Warren County. We met and reviewed them and provided letters of support for a number of the communities throughout Warren County. So Wayne did a very good job, particularly highlighting the various trails, recreation areas, and the First Wilderness Trail that Warren County really has one of the top performances in the state for the First Wilderness Trail that has been going on for a number of years now. So it's a continuation program. We know it's not only great for the locals, but it really is becoming more and more of a tourist draw for people that are looking to come out, out of the cities, but they want to find some things to do. They want to find some trails, and I think it's another niche for our tourism in the area. So we'll run through that a little bit again. We had a very successful luncheon with the new CEO from Angiodynamics at the end of June, and again he made some announcements relative to continuing to make investments at the Glens Falls and Queensbury facilities in town. Adirondack Challenge. John's already reported his story. It's been reported about him getting dunked in the river up there, and the governor was very enthusiastic this year for the 5th year, and also we could not find a picture, John. I called the governor's office to see if there was a picture of you in the water, and they didn't. Apparently they did not have that, or you bought it for a price, so it wouldn't show up here. And there's our state, and there's our
so fast.
Yeah,
there wasn't time.
There's our state senator with other state senators from basically with the governor. The other representatives are from downstate. Kevin Parker is on our right there as well. And again, I got there and took that picture early of just water on each of the areas. The CFA, which I just mentioned, they were due last Friday. The announcement will be in December for the various awards from New York State at that particular time. One of our applications was to undertake a development strategy for the South Queensbury area, but encompassing the airport property, the industrial park, Queensbury Business Park, the Sibagagi area, the BOA area, which is contained in that, and also stretching that into a portion of the city BOA, which joins the Queensbury BOA, which I thought we were going to be able to get some additional points in that regard. So BOA, which is a brownfield opportunity area. And again, combined with these studies, we hope to be able to utilize that to develop some strategies in marketing that section. That whole area is probably 900 acres, and I think if we undertake kind of a collaborative and cooperative marketing in that particular area, with that Sibagagi site that has rail, that potentially, John, one of the things that we might be able to get permission from them to do rail siting into that area.
Yeah, well, it was well written that.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. So I think that we're going to be hopefully be successful. It's a 50-50 match. Yes.
And so the economic opportunity zone, something special.
Yeah. Yes.
Within that. So.
Yeah. What we're going to try to do is, because of the brownfield gives some additional tax credits for cleanup and so forth. So that's one particular area. The town of Queensbury has talked about developing a portion of Sivagagi site for solar. There might be an opportunity for some energy incentives in that particular area for the solar. Those are the kind of incentives. We're not talking about zero county taxes within that zone, Craig, but we're talking about some incentives that basically are really coming out of that particular area of the county that would be afforded to go back into that particular area. But this gives us an opportunity so that when we're out looking and attracting and talking about property, not only for commercial or industrial, but you certainly have significant retail as well in that particular area. So it's really a mixture. And again, we've seen this before. This is a Sivagagi site looking west into West Mountain. And there is another portion looking north from the Sivagagi site into the north area. And you can see at the tip of that somewhere in the Doug Beatty waving from the airport up in that section.
Where's my wing?
One of the other projects that was being submitted is the Glens Falls for the Department of State Local Waterfront grant. Lake George is also submitted. Bolton Landing has also submitted waterfront grants as well for this particular area to continue the development along on the right-hand side. You see the feeder canal. On the left-hand side, you see the Hudson River, and the effort is to make improvements to those areas to attract more people to the Pines Island particular area. Pines Island, again, like South Queensbury, is a mixture of industrial uses that are down there. Antrix is down there. Also, Flowmatic, which does all of the water valves, essentially, for many of the communities in New York State, as well as the country and internationally. They're down there, as well as we have some other industries located there. And then also, this is where Argyle Cheese is going to be locating their facility on Pines Island for production, as well as having some small retail, as well as also working at the farmers market when the new farmer market opens in about a year and a half. Also, as I mentioned before, these are some of the a number of projects that were Bolton, Chester was included, Johnsburg, Stony Creek, and Warrensburg were included in Wayne's projects. And West LA Group did continued improvements to Rogers, or rather Veterans Park up there. That's, I think, year 5 that they're undertaking those opportunities. We're going to be starting this fall again with our second round of EPA job training. There'll be 3 sessions of about 25 to 30 individuals, principally from Warren County, a few from Washington County. We had last time we had about 2 from Essex County. They need to be unemployed and or underemployed individuals. It is a federal grant that's 100% grant. There's no local share, and that will be underway mid-September, and it will be at Local 773, the Plumbers and Steamfitters at Tech Metals, just off the Northway there by Exit 18 area. And again, we're going to be kicking off, and at our next meeting we will have an outline of brochures and a pamphlet to start distributing for an additional new fund of $500,000, which came $250 from the state and $250,000 from 5 area banks contributed funds into that. And essentially what this is going to be focused on is small business loans of $25,000 to $30,000. It can be used for capital. It cannot be used for operating. Whereas our LDC funds here that Chairman Peter rules on is available for working capital. So combined between both of those, and there's no ineligibility, so we could have a combination of a $50,000 grant that would comprise of capital from one source, and then other monies that they need, for instance, to upgrade the software in computers. They need some work training and so forth. That could come out of the Warren County LDC to combine both. Those are state regulations. We could not, we tried to wiggle a little bit of room, but we'll use both funds, I think, successfully for that. And then we're also planning for our fall and zoning training up at Lake George at Fort William Henry. Again, it's principally for the North Country. It deals with the northern parts of our towns, the Adirondack Park Agency, and the key here again is credit is given for training purposes for your planning and zoning board, members. So we have some good speakers that come in over the particular years. I do want to mention just a couple of other things. One is I met last week with the Economic Development Administration, which is an agency within the U.S. Department of Commerce. Why it was important: for about 3 years we have not had a local representative for New York State after the retirement. EDA has been important for a number of projects. The Warren Washington Industrial Park was funded substantially through the EDA. The Queensbury Business Park and Tech Metals all received funds through EDA. Every president since Ronald Reagan has proposed to eliminate this agency, and it's been beaten back by bipartisan on both sides of the aisle because of the effectiveness of the program and because it provides infrastructure for water and sewer, for other updates. And so it was very important for us to convey how we appreciate the efforts of the EDA, and we're confident that Senator Schumer, Gillibrand, and Congresswoman Elise have all indicated support for continuation of EDA. I do suspect that there will be some funds that will be less. Also, just to recognize, I was thinking about the other day that in the last year, the region between the Glens Falls Hospital and the city has received $30 million from the state of New York. And the $20 million for the hospital will really move the hospital forward in new areas of putting together and consolidating many of the functions that currently are not located in one particular area right now. They're spread out. This will consolidate, and I think it's a positive thing. Glens Falls Hospital has an economic impact of $500 million a year. They have 2,800 employees. Between the payroll, between the supplies, and the indirect results, that is the amount of impact. You combine that with the 17 primary care facilities by the Hudson Headwater that go from Glens Falls to their newest up in Champlain, New York. That's a significant economic boost for our entire region. And even more importantly than that is the quality of health care that we have from the hospital and from Hudson Headwater. So I just wanted to recognize that. And finally, in response to the closing of the Price Chopper on Dix Avenue and Cooper Street in Glens Falls, we are working with the city. We are in regular communication with Price Chopper. Price Chopper has not made a decision as to the price. Price Chopper has not made any other commitment who to sell it to at this particular point, as well as we have been in conference with a number of citizens in the area. It's a regional facility for the east side of Glens Falls. Many on that particular side of town are elderly, or you just have people that are commuting back into the city from their job out of the city, and they have been using that store there. So we are working to attempt to have a replacement grocery store in there, but there's been no commitment by Price Chopper to sell it specifically to a grocery store at this particular time, or they have not excluded that as well. It's a 2-acre site, which is large, being in the city of Glens Falls. The store is a 19,000 square foot. The assessed value is 1.1. Market value would be about $1.4 million. So those are the kind of the dimensions, and we have passed that information on. The average daily count of traffic is about 17,000 cars a day on Dix Avenue in that particular area, so that we are working to see if we can bring a grocery store in the area. Grocery stores work on such a very small margin. And
I was in there Saturday afternoon, Ed. I had to buy one item, and they are...
close.
No, they were open, believe it or not. Someone asked me as I was going in, is the store still open? But they virtually had
Nothing.
no commodities in the store. They were going around with their scanners and basically, taking count of inventory and getting rid of the inventory. In terms of, the one that comes to mind, and I think you may have been quoted in the paper, is Tops. They seem to...
I do not name any stores in the paper.
Okay, well,
We have a policy because any store that we have talked to requires a non-disclosure agreement.
I see. Okay,
And,
well, I must have dreamt that because I guess in my own mind that, it looked like kind of a natural fit in terms of, they seem to have a large presence out in the western part of the state and then seem to have smaller stores in our general geography, so it...
They have a number. They have Bolton, Chestertown, Warrensburg.
Yeah.
But I can't comment specifically on...
I appreciate that. Supervisor Montesi, did you have a comment?
I was just going to comment on that.
Okay. Ed, you mentioned another thing that I think was kind of interested, regarding hospitals, all of the issues related to affordable care in our country. One of the common threads that kind of permeates our national landscape is the significant economic contribution that, in terms of employees and economic base that hospitals have within just smaller, particularly rural parts of our country, and Senator Collins from Maine, I think, has gotten a fair amount of publicity as it relates to that. So it's we take a Medicaid program and we attempt to try to understand that, and we trying to come to grips with health care is, as I think our president has said, is he didn't quite think it was as difficult as he thought it was going to be. So it is what it is.
It's interesting to hear the comments from the elected officials in Washington, their pre-election comments from last year and their post-election comments in the last couple of weeks. It's been very interesting to see their divergence of view has shifted, and part of that you've alluded to is the complexity, of the issues that are, particularly out there, and the interplay as to how it affects the state programs as well. And in New York State, we probably have an a la carte menu of probably the richest programs in the entire country, with a number of options over the years that the state legislature has added on to the programs. And again, that's a variance in it, but I think it is a very complex issue. And fortunately, that is not an issue that is on the table in Warren County for us to handle. We certainly can express our thoughts on that. One more I wanted to bring up that just has occurred. Congresswoman Stefanik from obviously our area and a congressman from Florida have introduced legislation that would extend Canadian visas by 60 days. So right now, a Canadian can come down here that owns property or rents for 182 days. We currently have $1.5 billion impact has been estimated by Canadian tourists for New York State alone, and that's about 4 million visitors a day. I'm sorry, 4 million per year. But what the Congressman Elise proposes to do, along with the representative from Florida, is to extend that visa another 60 days, so that individuals, particularly in some of this area, the Canadians may rent or own but it has an impact for the North Country, particularly those along the St. Lawrence River and so forth, to be able to expend more time here in the USA without issues, and that anything that we can do to encourage tourism here in the north part of the country, we should be doing. So I think that's a piece of legislation that we're going to be looking at a little bit more closely to see the merits of that. But I think it was worthy noting to see something that we're going to look at and see if we can talk to their office today and find out a little bit more on that information. She sent a note out on Friday afternoon, but I think it's something to look at. And again, it's kind of thinking out of the box a little bit of some things.
Great. Anyone have any comments, any observations? That being said, can we get a motion to adjourn? Supervisor McDonald, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
And certainly, if you members have any